What if tomorrow you woke up and found no trace of time? No clocks, no yesterday, no tomorrow. Only an endless present, burning away moment after moment. Human beings have always been obsessed with time. We measure it, we chase it, we fear it. Time is the very breath of existence, and at the same time its cruelest limit. It is the invisible thread that holds together memories of the past, expectations of the future, and the anxiety of a present that slips away. Every philosophy, every psychoanalysis, every deep reflection on the human condition has collided with the same inevitable question: what is time? Arthur Schopenhauer was among the most radical in trying to answer it. For him, time is not something that exists out there. It is not a property of the universe, but a lens of the human mind. A form of representation, a mechanism that allows us to organize the world and make it comprehensible. But this same mechanism is also a prison. It condemns us to see life as an endless sequence of moments that are born and die without pause. The German philosopher saw man as a slave to time. And from this slavery came his dark vision of existence, a pendulum swinging between suffering and boredom. When we desire something we don't have, we suffer. When we finally obtain it, time seems to stop, and then boredom, dissatisfaction, emptiness arrive. A new desire is born and the cycle begins again. In this perspective, time is not just a neutral container for human life, it is the stage of our condemnation. It is the rhythm with which the will, that blind force that drives us to live, to want, to desire, pushes us forward relentlessly. For Schopenhauer, the human condition is a constant struggle with time. Every second brings us closer to the end, yet none of these seconds ever seems enough to give true meaning to our existence. If time is always slipping away, then what truly remains are the choices we make. So let this instant become meaningful. Subscribe, leave a like, and join this journey. Because together we can carve out a space where thought resists the rush of time and reflection becomes an act of freedom. Because this journey belongs to us, so every click of yours adds strength to this community that dares to question the very nature of existence. And yet he saw a crack, a possible escape. According to Schopenhauer, man can free himself, even for just a moment, from this tyranny. When he stops chasing his desires, when he abandons himself to disinterested contemplation, art, music, beauty. In those suspended moments, time stops flowing. There is no past, no future, only pure experience, the instant that becomes eternal. Perhaps this is why certain melodies seem to touch our soul, or why the sight of a sunset can make us forget, even for an instant, who we are, where we're going, how much time we have left. In that moment, the hourglass of life flips over, and man tastes a form of eternity that is not elsewhere, but here, now, in the present. If for Schopenhauer time was a sentence that drags us forward, for Friedrich Nietzsche it was a challenge, the ultimate test of existential courage. Nietzsche imagined a thought so radical it could shake the very foundations of everyday life, the eternal return of the same. Imagine that every gesture, every word, every glance, every mistake, and every triumph you've lived does not happen only once. Imagine that everything returns, identical, infinite times. Not a cycle you can escape, not a destiny you can change, but a cosmic wheel turning endlessly, repeating each instant forever. Nietzsche asks you, would you be ready to relive your life exactly as it is, again and again for all eternity? This is not an abstract theory, it's an existential experiment, a punch straight to the gut. Because if the idea terrifies you, it means you are living a life you do not truly want. But if you can say yes to every instant, even the hardest ones, then you have found the strength of Amor, Fati, the love of fate. The eternal return is not just a metaphysical idea, but an invitation to live with a new kind of attention. For Nietzsche, time should not be thought of as a line stretching from past to future, but as a spiral that forces you to face each instant with maximum intensity. Every moment, even the most trivial, takes on absolute weight. How you live it now is how you will live it forever. That is why Nietzsche despised the person who lives only on regrets or expectations. Those trapped in the past or suspended in a future that never arrives betray life itself. Only those who seize the present with all their strength can bear the idea of the eternal return. And here, time stops being a sentence and becomes a battlefield, a place to prove the greatness or the misery of your existence. Imagine a silent night, Nietzsche writes, and a demon approaches, whispering in your ear, "This life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more." Would you despair? Or could you answer, "You are a god. Never have I heard anything more divine." In this vision, attention is no longer just psychic energy distributed over objects. Attention becomes the ability to say yes to the moment before you, to seize it as if it were eternal, as if destined to return infinite times. Nietzsche does not ask you to flee from time, but to live it to the fullest, to transform every moment into something so powerful that you would want to relive it for eternity. If Nietzsche challenges us to live time to its fullest, Sigmund Freud revealed an even more unsettling truth. In the unconscious, time does not exist. Freud discovered that our dreams, our repressed desires, the darkest fears of our psyche, do not obey the laws of the clock. There is no before or after, no past that dies, no future yet to come. In the unconscious, everything remains alive, as if it had happened just a moment ago. That is why a childhood trauma can haunt us even decades later, surfacing suddenly, uncontrollably. That is why a repressed desire can return with the same force it had when it was born, as if no time had passed. For the unconscious, the past is not past. It is an eternal present that knocks without mercy. Freud spoke of psychic attention as a form of energy, the libido, invested in objects, people, ideas. Every time you think of someone, every time a fear paralyzes you, every time a memory obsesses you, it is not just an abstraction. It is living energy your mind is spending. Attention, for Freud, is the currency with which the unconscious pays its debt to time. But here lies the enigma. If the unconscious is timeless, how can we free ourselves from its chains? Psychoanalysis, Freud says, is a work of time. It does not erase the past, but makes it present in consciousness, bringing it to light so it can finally transform. It is as if analysis builds a bridge between two worlds, the timeless unconscious and the linear flow of everyday life. In this perspective, man constantly lives in two different temporalities. The conscious one, which flows with minutes, days, years, and the unconscious one, which remains still, immobile, eternal, yet continues to pulse beneath the surface. The paradox is that our attention, our ability to focus, to choose an object and invest energy in it, is always caught in this tension. How often do we find ourselves obsessively dwelling on something from the past, even when the present demands that we move forward? How often does the future slip away because we are still prisoners of what has been? Freud shows us a time that does not flow, a time that does not forgive, a time etched into the psyche like fire. And he forces us to recognize that deep down, our mind does not know time the way the external world does. And now I want to hear from you. Do you feel that too? Have you ever experienced moments where the past felt alive, almost as if no time had passed at all? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective adds depth to this exploration. And together we can uncover how each of us lives and perceives the mystery of time. If Freud revealed that the unconscious does not know time, Carl Gustav Jung showed us that time itself sometimes refuses to obey causality. Jung coined a fascinating and unsettling word, synchronicity. Events that happen at the same moment, without cause and effect, yet united by hidden meaning. A dream that anticipates a real encounter. A sudden thought that materializes before your eyes moments later. Coincidences so precise they seem impossible, yet so full of meaning they cannot be ignored. For Jung, synchronicity is proof that time is not just a line that flows, but also a symbolic fabric weaving the external world with our inner one. Time, in other words, is not only quantitative, measured in seconds and minutes, but qualitative. Some moments shine, stand out, weigh more than others. They are charged instants, revealing a deep link between the soul and the universe. Jung saw time as a space where archetypes emerge, those eternal images dwelling in the collective unconscious. Dreams, myths, religious symbols, they all speak a language that does not belong to any specific era but to eternity. When we dream an ancient symbol, we are not just living our individual time, we are tapping into a universal time shared by all humanity. And in this context, attention takes on an even subtler value. It is no longer just psychic energy moving from one object to another, but a compass guiding us to notice signs, messages, hidden connections. If you don't pay attention, synchronicities slip away, dismissed as trivial coincidences. But if you learn to listen, to look with different eyes, every event can become a fragment of a larger design. For Jung, to live authentically means to develop this capacity for symbolic attention. Not to remain trapped only in past or future, but to recognize the moments when time seems to bend, when the universe seems to speak through coincidences. These are the moments that guide us on the path of individuation, the process through which a human being truly becomes themselves, integrating light and shadow, consciousness and unconscious, present and eternal. Thus, time is not only a line leading us to death, as Schopenhauer thought. It is not only a challenge to be embraced with courage, as Nietzsche wanted. It is not only an enigma of the unconscious, as Freud revealed. For Jung, time is also a secret code, a symbolic language connecting individual destiny with the entire universe. If Schopenhauer saw time as a sentence, Nietzsche as a challenge, Freud as the enigma of the unconscious, and Jung as symbolic mystery, Martin Heidegger turned it into what is most intimate and inevitable for man, his finiteness. For Heidegger, human beings are not simply individuals who live immersed in time, as if it were a river flowing around them. Man is time. He does not possess it. He does not control it. He does not observe it from the outside. His very existence is intertwined with it. And here lies what makes this vision so shocking. Time only gains meaning because man knows he must die. Our being, Heidegger says, is a being toward death. Not because we should obsess over the end, but because it is precisely the awareness of the end that shapes every moment of life. Think about it. If we were eternal, time would carry no weight. No choice would be urgent, no decision definitive. We could postpone everything forever. But because we are mortal, every second becomes precious. Every possibility gains a unique and unrepeatable meaning. Death is not a distant event, but the conditions silently accompanying each gesture, making it serious, authentic, full of value. Heidegger distinguished two ways of living time. There is the inauthentic everyday life, where we get lost in what they say, in doing what everyone does, in chasing the noise of the world. And then there is authentic existence, in which we confront our limit, recognize our finiteness, and choose to live consciously. Here, attention takes on a radical meaning. It is no longer just the ability to concentrate, but the act of looking life in the face without hiding behind distractions or illusions. It is the decision to claim time as our own, to live it not as a sequence of anonymous days, but as a work to be composed, moment by moment. Time for Heidegger is not a clock ticking away our days, but the very rhythm of existence. And in this perspective, his thought becomes almost a cry. Stop living as if you were eternal. Stop being dragged by inertia. See time for what it is, the most fragile and precious good you possess. Arthur Schopenhauer saw in time humanity's greatest enemy, a pendulum swinging between suffering and boredom. Friedrich Nietzsche, instead, saw in the same time a trial, a demon asking whether we are ready to live without regrets. One invites us to flee into the silence of art. The other forces us to embrace the instant so fully we would wish to relive it forever. Two opposing visions, yet both compel us to look time in the eye. Sigmund Freud revealed an unconscious that does not know time. Memories remain alive, traumas never heal on their own, the past reappears as an eternal present. Carl Gustav Jung transformed this vision. Not only does trauma remain alive, but so do symbols and archetypes. The unconscious becomes not a prison, but a door onto a universal time. For Freud, attention is energy that can remain trapped in the past. For Jung, it is a compass helping us notice the signs of destiny. Time doesn't live only in philosophy books. It is in sleepless nights, in the minutes that refuse to pass, in the hours that vanish when we are happy. It is in waiting, in memory, in the fear of wasting life. And if these words resonate with you, don't just listen, take part. Subscribe, leave a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next, so that every new reflection can reach you the moment it appears. But above all, share your thoughts in the comments, your story, your vision, your questions. Because only together can we weave a dialogue where philosophy is no longer abstract, but alive, shaped by every voice that dares to speak. Schopenhauer saw it in suffering and boredom. Nietzsche would ask us to transform even an hour of waiting into something worthy of eternity. Freud would remind us that often we are not reacting to the present, but to an echo from the past. Jung would invite us to notice the coincidences that speak like hidden messages. And Heidegger would remind us that every second is unrepeatable, because we are beings toward death. Time changes its face depending on how we look at it. Sentence, challenge, trauma, language, finiteness. But it remains the only currency we truly possess, the only good we cannot accumulate or give back. Time is our greatest mystery, but also our greatest obsession. We chase it as if it were a resource to accumulate. We fear it as an enemy consuming us, yet we can never grasp it. It is the invisible frame of every memory, the hidden heartbeat behind every expectation, the flame that fuels every hope. Some, like Schopenhauer, saw it as condemnation. Others, like Nietzsche, turned it into a challenge. Freud found it suspended in the unconscious. Jung recognized it as a symbolic language. Heidegger felt it as our very essence. Yet time remains greater than any definition. It is at once reality and illusion, limit and possibility, sentence and salvation. It slips through our fingers, yet it shapes us. It carries us toward the end, yet it gives value to every beginning. Perhaps the secret is not to fight it or to escape it. Perhaps the secret is to learn to feel it flowing, to recognize it in every instant we live, to transform it from enemy into companion. Because time is not only what distances us from life, it is what makes life possible. The real question is how you choose to live it.